we had Title X, the federal family planning program, right? So that was helping patients through, and that was great. As state funding was torn away, a large number of patients with low incomes were able to receive services through Title X. But, as you probably know, the Trump administration enacted a gag rule last year, forcing Planned Parenthood's exit from the program, and more than 14,000 Iowans who were served every year by Planned Parenthood were left with new copays and faced with finding a new provider. And some, probably more than we know, are going without the critical care that they need altogether. The consequences have been swift. Participation in the state's family planning program has dropped by more than 80%. And with far fewer people accessing care, STIs across the state are increasing at an alarming rate, especially in areas that lost health centers and access to care. And maternal deaths are significantly higher now than they were 30 years ago. Not okay. And as these problems continue to worsen, what are Iowa lawmakers doing? They are interested in amending the state's constitution to, for the first time in our state's history, to take away rights instead of advancing them. The majority party is peddling a constitutional amendment that would strip the state's constitutional protection of the right to a safe legal abortion. And this isn't the first time we've faced attacks like that, and it won't be the last. But it is more important now than ever that we stand together and we fight to advance reproductive rights and not set Iowa further back. We can't do it alone. That's why you're all here, right? All of you, our supporters, our volunteers, our members, you all are a force to be reckoned with, aren't you? You are the true catalysts that force change and advance movements. We are building upon that power in Iowa, equipping supporters and volunteers with the tools that they need to grow into leaders that we can mobilize for the greater movement. We now, and you will hear from one of them, or maybe two of them later, we have a large, diverse group of storytellers who travel the state sharing their stories about reproductive health issues that have affected their lives. And we have more pink power in this state than ever before who show up at events across Iowa to fight for our fundamental rights. As the first state in the nation, Iowa has an opportunity to set the agenda in this election. That agenda must include sexual and reproductive health and rights. That's right. That is why we are grateful to have this candid candidate conversation today, and why we will continue to hold them through the 2020 election and learn how candidates plan to protect our healthcare and rights. It is now my distinct pleasure to introduce our host today, Shayla McCormley. Let's give it up for Shayla. Shayla is a board member for the Planned Parenthood Advocates of Iowa, a truly inspiring leader in our community. And looking around this room, I think we all know all the amazing causes she champions. So without further ado, I will turn it over to my friend and colleague, Shayla.
Thank you guys for coming, a few of our good friends. Clearly we're doing packing it in unlike we ever thought, because Planned Parenthood has amazing support. So thank you for coming to our home to talk about the issues that matter. I started working on women's health issues, 35 years ago. My mom taught me that it was needed to protest, to make sure that women had health care, to make sure that we fought for the ERA, which, we're still fighting for, and to make sure that we were allowed to make our own health care decisions. Clearly we're not done, and we're going backwards. And so I decided, 4 or 8 years ago, to step up and help Planned Parenthood, because I have a daughter, and my 8-year-old needs those rights. And my 8-year-old needs to know that you stand up when people don't listen to you. And women are always underserved and always not listened to. And so she is here to know this is what you do. Even when she's overwhelmed by all of our close friends in our house. Because when something's not right, you stand up for it. And my mom taught me that, and that's why I work with Planned Parenthood. And we are so excited to have Elizabeth Warren talk to us about the issues that matter, because it's not getting better, and we need help on the House, winning back the House, taking back the Senate, ultimately taking back the governorship so we can own our state and take care of the people who live here, and taking back our country. And so we are so happy to have the first of many conversations with candidates who can tell us where they stand on the issues, and that they're going to take care of Iowans and Americans and not other people. So thank you so much for being here. I will pass it off to one of our fabulous storytellers, Sarah Elgatian. Okay, I have that last name right. So thank you so much for being here.
I go to Planned Parenthood at my most vulnerable, every time. 6 years ago, newly freed from a toxic relationship, I figured it was time to take my health seriously, but I was in a new city with no job. I knew Planned Parenthood because in high school, when friends and I were too bored or too scared to buy condoms, I went to Planned Parenthood. In college, when student health couldn't tell if I had genital warts, I had been diagnosed with HPV like a month before moving to Seattle, and warts as a result. I went to Planned Parenthood. When I worked with homeless youth and saw them repeatedly discriminated against for race, gender expression, sexual experience, I took them to Planned Parenthood. When my friend was denied PrEP from another clinic because he wasn't a high enough risk, he contracted HIV anyway. Planned Parenthood was there. They, by the way, do not deny PrEP to anyone. When my primary care doctor couldn't see me on short notice, and I was scared after an interaction with a guy I kind of knew went too far, I went to Planned Parenthood. So when I moved to Iowa, where I had no friends, no money, and no insurance, I went to Planned Parenthood. It was, admittedly, more difficult than going to my neighborhood Planned Parenthood in Seattle because the building and parking lot are hidden, presumably for my safety. A stark contrast from Seattle, where it was on the main road in my neighborhood and shared a parking lot with the grocery store. I chose Planned Parenthood this time because over the last 15 years, I've been treated not just well, not just with respect and compassion, but like I matter. Something about Planned Parenthood that I think is really special is the staff who sit with you and have a real conversation. For the first time in a doctor's office, when I was asked about my safety in my relationship, I was honest. I wasn't convinced at the time I was being abused, but I definitely didn't feel safe. I honestly didn't know, blame maybe inadequate sex ed, that it wasn't normal for sex to be coercive. I didn't realize I wasn't being listened to. I had never been spoken to about my experience. And as scared as I was, realizing these things in a fluorescent lit room with a stranger, I wasn't ashamed to tell the truth to my provider. I didn't feel safe, secure, loved, or sexy. I felt used. I had never known before this one particular trip to Planned Parenthood in 2014 that my experience wasn't normal. It took a long time to convince me that love and sex could feel good. I went in for an IUD, not therapy. All healthcare should feel like a visit to Planned Parenthood. We shouldn't feel relieved to receive holistic, accurate, compassionate care. We should feel safe. We should know without question that our providers are bravely saving lives with their work. There are so many people in this world, in this country, in Iowa, who have no access to reproductive care outside of Planned Parenthood. Now, especially with our state legislators hoping to outlaw abortion, it's more important than ever to continue to contact our legislators, volunteer, and give unwavering support to Planned Parenthood. We can also take action with Planned Parenthood Action Fund. Without abortion access, people die. Without adequate health care, people die. Speaking next is longtime reproductive rights champion, Senator Elizabeth Warren.
I just want to say thank you to Sarah for telling your story. It takes a lot of courage to do that. But the only way we make change is to stand up and speak out. So thank you, Sarah. Thank you. I am so glad to be here with all of you today. I'm just going to start by telling you, on the day that Donald Trump was sworn in, a lot of folks said they weren't going to go in the Senate and in the House. I come from a witnessing tradition, and I decided I'm going. I'm going to go, and I'm going to watch this. And I did. And it's a good thing I did, because it is now burned into the backs of my eyeballs. It means if I ever got tired, right, I'd lay back, I'd close my eyes, I'd see Donald Trump getting sworn in, and I'm back. I'm ready. But I thought about it that morning when I was getting up, and I thought, you talk about something you've got to drag yourself off to do. I thought, so what am I going to do? I've got to go. We have to sit outside. And I thought, I know. I pulled out my pink Planned Parenthood scarf, tied it so the Planned Parenthood, any shots of me have Planned Parenthood right here across my throat. And I wore it for the Donald Trump inauguration. I wore it at the minute I watched our nation change. And then, 24 hours later, When I spoke at the Women's March in Boston, I wore it again and watched the world change again. And one more. I'm going to wear it the day I'm sworn in as the first woman president. So it is great to be here with all of you. It is great to be here with people who understand the importance of what's happening all across this country. I have been to the floor and given some variation on this speech so many times to say what is wrong with the Republican men in the United States Senate. Did they all fall down, knock their heads, and wake up and think it was 1851, 1951? Well, here's news. It is 2020, and we are not going back. Not now, not ever. I'll talk about whatever you want to talk about, and I want to keep this really short so we can take as many questions as possible. But the part I want you to hear is the importance of the upcoming elections. And when I say that, it's elections plural. We cannot simply focus on the White House. I get it. Boy, I want to get rid of Donald Trump. Nobody should doubt that. But we got to take back the Senate. We got to hang on to the House. And we've got to win up and down the ticket. We have to be there to fight for our state house races. Gubernatorial, city council, all of it. Because understand this, to have an America where women are truly secure, where access to health care is safe and readily available, we can't have just one office in America that we hold on to. We can't have just a few. We need to have women representing us, and we need to have people who are sympathetic to women representing us in all parts of our government, in all states across this country. That is our mission. So I'm in this fight to win the White House. You bet I am. But I am in this fight to win across this country, to win states across this country, because there is so much on the line. What happens in this election is not just the next 2 years, the next 4 years, the next 6 years. This is generations to come. And here's the thing. As scary as this moment is, and it is also a moment filled with hope. Because so many people are off the sidelines. So many people who for so long took for granted, it's all going to work out. It'll all be fine. Democracy will work. It doesn't matter whether or not I show up. And a part of it have figured out democracy is not a machine that will go of itself. And if we want to protect our rights, we got to get out there and fight for them. You don't get what you don't fight for. So we're in this fight together. Let's do some questions. Who's got a good question? Who wants to do the question call?
Yeah, here, I'll help you out with a question. Let's give it up one more time for Senator Warren. Yes, here's to being in the fight, Yes. Okay, get your questions ready. I see a couple of hands up already. I think we're starting with over here.
Hi, Senator Warren.
Hi.
Thank you so much for joining today. My name is Leah Vanden Bosch.
Hi, Leah.
Hi.
Good to see you.
Hi, good to see you. I actually was able to help celebrate your birthday at another Planned Parenthood event earlier in the year.
Oh,
so,
yes,
yeah,
yes,
so it's good to see you again.
fantastic. It is good to see you again, Leah.
Yeah, it's
yep.
been great to look forward to events like today when we've had really tough weeks, like the week that we've had at the Capitol. And I guess that's what I really was concerned with and wanted to speak to you about today. This past week was the Senate subcommittee meeting for this constitutional ban on abortion, and it brought me back to 2 years ago. We had kind of a similar setup. It was the subcommittee meeting for a 6-week abortion ban. And at that time, I was not politically involved at all. I was not affiliated with Planned Parenthood. I had really only been there for my abortion services. And this ban came out 7 months after my abortion. And at the same time, I just coincidentally reached out to Planned Parenthood wanting to be involved, ended up at the Capitol that day, ended up giving my testimony kind of on the spot, and things escalated pretty quickly from there. But what's really become apparent to me now is what an invasion of privacy that day was. And I'm so grateful for this experience and for everything that's come from that, but every time I need to share my story, I'm talking about a very personal, private medical decision. And so I think it's just become very alarming to me that it is clearly healthcare. It's clearly something that our politicians shouldn't be talking about. So with you, if you were to become president, we're grateful to have, a pro-choice president and someone who's supportive from a national level. But from a stateside level, as we've mentioned, we're still going to be fighting for control of the House and the Senate. What will you do to ensure that you are using your influence to support states like Iowa, who aren't necessarily in the best place and are fighting for control of the Senate and the House, and then also fighting against some of the most extreme restrictions to reproductive access?
Good. It's a great question, Leah. Thank you for being a part of this fight. You are the reminder. We've all got to be off the sidelines in it. And there will be a day when we will be secure in our rights. But right now, we are in the middle of this battle. So let me do both halves of this question, because there are really two parts to it. The first part is the federal part, because we all remember federal law takes precedence over state law. We have now lived for 47 years with Roe versus Wade. We have counted on the United States Supreme Court to protect a woman's right to an abortion. And we have watched year by year by year as that right has gotten narrower and narrower and narrower, as state after state has chipped away at it, has created an exception and a loophole and another piece and another piece, until now. We are truly fearful that if this goes to the United States Supreme Court, that the Supreme Court will take away a woman's right to the full health care services that she should be entitled to in this country. So I understand this battle that's going on, but there's another part to it that we need to think about. And that is 3 out of 4 Americans across this country believe that Roe versus Wade should be the rule of the country, should be the rule of the land. When 3 out of 4 people in America believe that something should be the law, then my view is it is time for legislative action. We need to make Roe versus Wade the law of America by legislation. And the big advantage that gives us, and this really goes to your point, is when we write that legislation, we don't have to write it the same way the Supreme Court did, and then let the states come in and create one exception and one loophole after another. We can actually block off those loopholes as part of the legislation. So I say at the beginning, at the federal level, it is time to get off our back foot and keep hoping against hope that the Supreme Court will protect us, and it is time to get on our front foot and demand that Congress act. So that's where I start. But let me add the second part, because this is so important. We recognize we are in this fight together. I'm ready to wage that battle at the federal level, but we've got to make sure we're winning at the state level. We need more seats in Iowa, in the House, in the state Senate. We need people to be represented. So what will I do? I'm in this fight now for up and down the ticket. Part of the advantage of building a grassroots movement, which is what I've been working on since the first day I got in this. You go out and collect a lot of money and run a lot of TV ads. Helps the person who has the TV ad, but it doesn't help anybody else up and down the ticket. You build a grassroots network of volunteers and organizers. Man, we start moving into the general election. You've got a lot of people to knock doors and make phone calls, and when they do, they're not just making phone calls and knocking doors for the top of the ticket. We're not just opening those doors for the top of the ticket. We're doing it for up and down the ticket, and that's how we have to think of this. We are in this fight together in Iowa and all across America.
Thank you.
Hi.
My name's Tanya Keith.
Hi, Tanya.
Hello. And I was one of the people that testified yesterday in the state subcommittee meeting. And,
Yes.
and Jake Chapman cannot silence me. I'm just going to say that.
Good.
But I am here today as a Cory Booker precinct captain, and so I feel that too.
I talked to him again today.
I did too.
I know.
So I am here with a very difficult decision because I'm still heartbroken, and I know that we have talked about how much I care about your plans for inner city and people of color and people that are struggling day to day, and like our school system that is turning over in my neighborhood over 75% of the kids every year, and I have all of those concerns still. But today I am here to tell you that as a woman working in construction and reporting on sports, I believe you 100%, because I looked at you and I looked at him and I'm like, he did that. I know that Bernie Sanders said those things to you because I have seen your body language and I have seen his body language, and I know what men say to us in rooms and then what they say to us in person to gaslight us, and I just want you to know that I believe you 100%. And what I would like to hear from you today is, I have a little PTSD from the Clinton campaign, and I don't want to see Bernie Sanders people doing to your supporters what they did to us. And I would like to know what your plans are for shutting that down, and when you're the nominee, winning his supporters over to your camp, because I feel like that was a mistake that we made in the Clinton camp, that we didn't mend those fences, and I don't know if they can be mended, but I just really want you to know that in the core of my being, I believe you.
So,
and this is my sister, my daughter Aviva, and you need to convince the youth vote, so please convince her.
so let me start by saying, Bernie and I have been friends for a long time. We fight for the same issues. We've been allies in these battles long before I ever got into politics. I knew Bernie and worked with him on a whole lot of issues that affect working people, families, poor people around this country. That's all I want to say about that topic, because what I truly believe is we're going to have to pull together. And understand this, because this is the part I wanted to be sure to address. When I said, when Donald Trump got sworn in, the world changed. And 24 hours later, when the Women's March, or also referred to as the biggest protest rally in the history of the world, occurred, the world changed again. And a lot of folks, I remember the commentators. You remember? They said, bazillion women marched. Whoa, they marched everywhere. Wow, look at that, including around the world. You marched, right? Lots of people marched. But will they still be there next month? And the answer was, oh yeah. Right? Will they still be there next year? The answer was, right? That women have come off the sidelines. Women have stood up. Women have said, I am not going to sit down and be quiet any longer. And the consequence of that, let's just look at the numbers. When people ask the question, can a woman win? What does this mean? Look at the numbers. Since Donald Trump has been elected, women candidates have outperformed men candidates in competitive races. And in 2018, we took back the House of Representatives. We took back state legislatures. We took seats in state legislatures and statewide offices because of women candidates and women out there fighting for the vote and making it happen. So, I am convinced we can do this together. This is not 2016. And look, I was out there in 2016, and I know how many other people were too. I thought we had. I thought we were going to do this. It didn't work, but it was a big, big wake-up call for a lot of people. And that's why I say the world has changed. So now the question is, what are we going to do about it? What are we going to do? And the answer is, everybody off the sidelines, and we get out here and fight for what we believe in. You don't get what you don't fight for in this world. And I say that to a room full of people who've been out there fighting for it every day. I'm going to talk a lot about things that pull us together, like corruption. Wait, how are we pulled together by corruption? We are pulled together by corruption because we live in America. It's just working better and better and better for a thinner and thinner slice at the top. Working better and better and better for people who can hire armies of lobbyists and lawyers and make huge campaign contributions, and worse for everyone else. The issue of corruption, fighting back against corruption. I've got the biggest anti-corruption plan since Watergate. End lobbying as we know it. Block the revolving door between Wall Street and Washington. Oh, here's one. Make the United States Supreme Court follow basic rules of ethics, which they don't. Make anybody who wants to run for federal office put their tax returns online. What do you think? Fighting on the issue of corruption, drawing distinction between the most corrupt administration in modern history and what we're out there trying to do, make this government work for everyone. So everybody's got a chance in this country. So everybody's got access to health care. So we've got a chance to build a world that isn't going to burn up from climate change. So we have a chance to keep our children safe, and they don't all have to learn the ins and outs of active shooter drills. So we have a chance to make this country work for the people. We've got this moment. And fighting on corruption, that brings our party together. It brings in independents. It brings in Republicans. 2-cent wealth tax brings in independents, brings in Democrats, brings in a majority of Republicans like it. It gives us the money to invest in our public schools, the money to do universal child care for every baby in this country, age 0 to 5, universal pre-K for all of them, universal 2-year college, technical school, 4-year college for everybody who wants an education, and cancel student loan debt for 43 million Americans. These are the things we can run on together. These are the issues we can build on and then build out from it. And here's the thing. You ask me what we do, we don't take nothing from nobody. We get out there and fight for what we believe in every single day. But we fight for what we believe in. That's why I'm in this race, and that's why I'm glad to be here with you.
Hi, my name is Connie Ryan, and I run an organization called Interfaith Alliance of Iowa. And I also chair an organization called Justice Not Politics. And so I want to circle back to the issue of the judiciary and having fair and impartial courts. I think it is the biggest battle that we have currently, because the courts are that line that helps to protect our rights when legislatures and the Congress have gone astray. And so we know that our courts have gone more and more conservative, and Donald Trump has put more and more judges in that are more and more conservative. How would you address that issue when you are president? And what would that look like in a Warren presidency so that we take back our courts?
Good. So thank you for the question. Let me just say, one of the things that's toughest in the United States Senate is going down day after day after day to vote for people or against them who are clearly unqualified and have been nominated for what are solely political reasons. And understand, I'm not talking about a little difference between who a Democrat might have nominated and who a Republican might have nominated. I'm talking about people that would have been completely unthinkable in the George W. Bush administration. People who have public records, are on video, have written things that are just horrible, that are racist, that are homophobic, that are misogynist. And here's the thing, I go down and vote no, I go down and give speeches. And the Republicans line up, and 100% of them vote yes, and that's enough to keep pushing these people through. So, what are we gonna do? I don't think the answer is we try to find people who are extreme in the other direction. I think what we do is we've got to restore the idea of an independent judiciary. A judiciary, there's a reason we give these people lifetime appointments. The lifetime appointment is to insulate them from politics, not to drag them deep into the middle of it. So, what do I look for in judges? Here's the heart of it. I look for people who have a variety of different experiences. We need men and women. We need people of different races. We need people of different gender identifications. We need people who've grown up rich, who've grown up poor. We need people who have lived different experiences, because that's what they bring as judges. There's a reason we don't do justice by machine. We do it by human being.
We do it by people who listen to the stories of other people and learn from those stories. So for me, the heart of this is that we've got to rebuild our judiciary, and I get it. It's going to be slow. It's going to be painstaking work, but it's powerfully important work. And we've got to bring in people from all across this country. I've lived this as a senator from Massachusetts, I'll tell you. The very first person I had the chance to suggest to the Obama administration that they nominate is Indira Talwani, who is a labor side lawyer and one of the first to have been nominated in decades. Somebody who, her parents both immigrated here. When she stood up at her swearing in, talked about having represented people for whom $1,000 was a lot of money. Which, if you know anything about our federal court system, you know it's often about the big corporations. It's the people who have unlimited funds. Indira understands the human part of this, and she understands the worker part of this. That's the kind of person we need more of, and more of life experiences like Indira's to be represented in our judiciary. So that's where I'm headed. Thank you. Thank you for the question.
My name is Ellen, and
Ellen?
yeah,
It's nice to see you, Ellen. I'm glad you're here.
and so you've named many things that you said that you were gonna do if and when you're elected. So then, if you are elected, what would be the first thing that you do?
Oh, the very first thing? Boy, this is hard. I've got such a long list. You know, but let's think about this one together. Because here's the thing. It turns out there are a lot of things that to make change, you got to go through Congress. And so that's going to be, we've got to work with Congress and make this happen. But there are a lot of things a president can do all by herself. And so, for example, on climate, what I want to do on the very first day is issue orders to stop all new drilling and mining on federal lands and no offshore drilling. It's important. Also on the first day, I want to name a Secretary of Education who's actually been a public school teacher. Secretary of Defense who is not a lobbyist for the defense industry. That's how we get to cut our defense budget. So there are lots of things like that I want to do. But the very first thing is I want to invite lots of people to celebrate. Lots of people to the White House. Lots of girls that I've done pinky promises with. Right? And lots of mamas and lots of daddies and lots of friends. And make people feel like we're going to build an America that's not just about one group taking advantage of another, that's not about people always fighting with each other, but an America that's got a place for everyone, and an America where every single person, and I mean every single person, has a real chance to succeed in this country. So that's what I want to do first. You want to come and join me? Let's do that.
Right, I think we have time for one more question, but don't worry, after the questions there will be time to chat with the senator and get your selfies with her.
Selfie line!
So, one more question here. Maybe you two can share.
Hi, Senator Warren. I'm Amanda.
Hi, Amanda.
I am actually on the precinct leadership team for you in Waukee.
Wow, thank you.
I was at a
I know it's a lot of work.
I was at the very first training this morning. So
Wow, fabulous. Good.
My question is because out in Waukee, it's a suburb of Des Moines, and what I hear when I'm knocking doors and making calls and talking to people, what they're concerned about primarily is healthcare and how to pay for it.
Yeah.
And education.
Mm-hmm.
And we've heard a lot about people who say they were on the sidelines because it didn't matter before. And I would like to know from you, how do we get them off of the sidelines, bring them into the issues that they care about, and also bring in women's rights, reproductive rights, LGBTQ rights, all of these things that everybody in this room cares deeply about, but maybe people who are on the sidelines maybe in Waukee, aren't as focused on. They're focused on education and they're focused on and how to pay for the health care. They believe in your health care plan. They're really worried about how to pay for it. And how do we circle that into rights for everybody?
Okay, so it's a great question. Let me see if I can, let me try this. So it's got moving parts here, okay, as I think of it. So first let's do healthcare. I just want to remind everybody in this room, 36 million Americans last year did not get a prescription filled because they couldn't afford it. And just think about what that means. They were sick enough to go to the doctor. The doctor said, here's what you need. This is what's going to help you. And they looked at that prescription. I said, I can't do it. It's that or groceries this week. It's that or paying the rent late. So the need is urgent. And the way I think about healthcare is we need the maximum amount of help to the maximum number of people as quickly as possible. So what's one of the things a president can do? I lost Ellen. All by herself on the first day? Right. The power is already there, is to reduce the cost of insulin, to reduce the cost of EpiPens, to reduce the cost of HIV/AIDS drugs. We can save Americans across this country hundreds of millions of dollars with power that has already been granted to the president to bring down the costs of these prescription drugs that are still under patent. So I'm going to start moving as quickly as I can. But we're going to need more than just prescription drugs. People like the healthcare plan. That's the good news. How to pay for it? I got a way to do this. And the way to do it is not to raise taxes by one thin dime on working families, on middle-class families. Here's how it works, is that we can pay for healthcare across America by raising taxes on the top 1% of earners in this country. That's probably not the doors you're knocking. Maybe, okay. But, you know, if that's the case, them's the facts. The top 1% of earners, by asking the giant corporations, maybe you noticed last year that Amazon, Halliburton, Eli Lilly reported billions of dollars in profits, and how much did they pay in taxes? Zero! By asking these big corporations to pay a fair share. And one more, my personal favorite, and that is cracking down on the tax cheats at the top end. We can actually pick up a couple of $1 trillion doing that. So there's enough money in order to pay for health care. And here's how I see it. Healthcare is a basic human right. And so I'm going to tie this in just one set. You're going to like this. The other one I talked about for just a minute is education, because it is the heart of it. That's what the 2-cent wealth tax is all about. 2-cent wealth tax, remember, it's people who have fortunes above $50 million. Your first $50 million is free and clear. Right? But your $50 million first, you got to pitch in 2 cents. 2 cents on every dollar after that. You hit $1 billion in assets, you got to pitch in a couple more pennies. That gives us enough money to invest in an entire generation of kids. Universal childcare, universal pre-K, raise the wages of every childcare worker and preschool teacher. I was a special education teacher. Fully fund IDEA, so every child with a disability gets the full education that they are entitled to in this country. Quadruple the funding for Title I schools. Put $1 million grant into every single public school in America so that they can figure out what it is they need to really bring up their excellent standards. You heard me talk about college, about canceling student loan debt. But here's the thing, it's for all of our kids. And we do this by asking those at the very top to pay a little more. And just in case anybody was about to cry a cup of billionaire tears, let me remind you, the 99% in America last year paid about 7.2% of your total wealth in taxes. That's across the board, that's the 99%. That top 1/10 of 1%, that I want to hit with the 2-cent tax, they paid 3.2%, less than half as much. This is about basic fairness. We got to pay to keep this country going, and we're just asking those at the top. Just just true up a little here, and we can invest in an entire generation. Now, you gave me the right lens into this. Because think of this as we talk about healthcare, we talk about education, but what's the heart of it? We talk about making sure it works for everyone. That is the heart of what we're talking about. So it's a short step. In fact, I don't even think it is a step. From there to LGBTQ rights, from there to women's rights, from there to children who are born into poverty, from there into racial discrimination, from there into immigrant children that are discriminated against, from there into every part. This is the fundamental question we face as a nation, and that is, who do we think this country ought to work for? Should it all be about big corporations? Should it all be about the people who make it to the top and got to keep more of what they make? Or is it really about making our country work for every single person? And that's why education and healthcare, you got it. It's right at the heart of it. I would throw in, if I had more time, housing, because I've got a big housing plan as well, because safe, affordable housing is a key part of everyone having opportunity in this country. But that is the heart of it. In fact, it gives me a perfect way to wrap this up. My family didn't have much. My daddy ended up as a janitor. My mom worked a minimum wage job at Sears. All three of my brothers went into the military. They didn't graduate college. But the military was their chance to serve and their chance to become part of America's middle class. I've had the same dreams since I was in second grade. I wanted to be a public school teacher. Can we hear it for public school teachers? By the time I graduated from high school, my family didn't have the money for a college application, much less to send me off to 4 years at university. My big chance was a commuter college that cost $50 a semester. And it was there because taxpayers invested and kept those doors open. That opportunity is not out there for a single kid in America today. There is no $50 a semester, 4-year, your chance to make it in America. So I think the way we pull this together is we talk about an America that works for everyone. That's the heart of why I'm running. I don't have a campaign that was shaped by a bunch of consultants. I don't have a bunch of proposals that were carefully designed not to offend rich donors. I passed that stop sign a long time ago. I have a campaign based on a lifetime of fighting for working families, but it's a campaign from the heart, because it truly is. I'm deeply grateful to this country for the opportunities that were given to me. I believe in an America where every woman, where every man, where every child, where everyone just has a chance to make it, and it's a real chance, not a pretend chance, not a fake chance, not a chance on paper but doesn't exist in reality, a chance where we're willing to make that investment, we're willing to get out and fight, we are willing to build a better country. That's what we can do in 2020.
What's at stake, fighting for what's at stake, as it is for fighting for what's possible,
Yes.
right? For what we can do.
Yes.
This woman's button up here says embrace hope, and I know for me that it's important to hope, but it's also important to back it up with some hard work. So who's ready to work here in 2020? Yes. I want to shout out some champions in the room as we get started on our selfie line and give you some instructions real quick. First of all, we've got some elected officials here tonight that we want to recognize. State Auditor Rob Sand, are you in the house? All right. All right, State Representative Chris Hall, are you in the house? State Rep Jennifer Cornthorst. Yes. All right, and City Councilman Josh Mandelbaum, are you in the house? Y'all, it's going to take not only taking back the White House, to winning back the Senate, and claiming power all across this country and states to get this work done, as Senator Warren reminded us. So please, as you're kind of getting in your selfie line, also be thinking about what you want to do here with your local Planned Parenthood Action Team to make sure that we're winning today, we're winning tomorrow, we win on November 3rd, and we're ready to govern on November 4th. So please, a couple of instructions here as we're wrapping out for the night. First, Senator Warren's going to stick around to ask your questions, to take your selfies. The way that we're going to do this, they've got a very sophisticated way to do selfies. So we're going to do it fast. They've got a plan for that. That's right. So we're going to start with the folks that are seated here, all the folks that are ADA accessible folks as well. We'll ask you to take your pictures first. Then we'll expand to everyone else that's in this current room. After that, we'll move over to the folks that are in the kitchen. And then after that, we'll wrap up with our last two rooms in the back. Know that some of our staff will be around facilitating the line, but we're going to start in here, then go to the kitchen, and then to the last two rooms. All right, are you ready? All right, thank you all so much again. And one more time for Senator Warren.